welcome everybody to episode 3 of the Fightonomics podcast. Again, I am Marcus and I'm here with Yusuf.
Yes, sir.
And we got Damien as well.
Happy to be here again, folks. Happy to be here.
I think it's going to be a great episode that we can sort of take in any direction. I feel like the first 2 episodes, there was those main sort of topics and storylines that we had to get into and sort of follow that format. I think for this one, there's a lot of different things going on in the world of MMA and boxing as well. And I think we can sort of venture off and go in any sort of direction, offer up a preview as well of UFC 231. So I don't know if you guys want to kick off and see what direction we go into, but Yusuf, what are you thinking?
Where do you guys want to start?
Well, I guess since we're here at 2-Hour Reference Library in our hometown of the 6, what better way to start off than by talking about UFC 231? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that'd be a good way to start. Is probably the biggest event going on in the last few weeks. I know there was UFC Beijing last week, and there's a tough finale this week. So there's a lot of different events going on, but I think that'd probably be a good way to start is just by looking forward to the future, and then we can sort of go back and forth and jump with the last event. So UFC 231, we got Max Holloway versus Brian Ortega.
It's going to be a big fight, man.
For the featherweight title. And then we also got the women's flyweight title, the first ever flyweight title fight. Or not even the first weight flyweight. They've had this division, but
title's vacant.
The title's vacant right now. We got some issues going on with the former champ. So we got Valentina Shevchenko versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk. It was her name. What's her name?
Was it?
No, her name is. Oh my God, why am I blanking on her name? I know her face. I think it's like Rico or something like that. Montana.
Sijara Eubanks?
No, Sijara Eubanks was supposed to fight. She was supposed to fight, but she missed weight. But she still fought and won, I believe. Kind of unprofessional. She was sort of trying to go for a title.
Damn.
But I'm blanking on the name. Anyways, besides the point, when we got Damien looking for that as well.
Young Damien in the cut.
We can kind of get into UFC 231. We got Max Holloway versus Brian Ortega.
Yeah, man, that's
let me get
Nico Montana?
Marcus is right. It's Nico Montana.
I knew it was Nico or Montano. There we go. So she ended up vacating the belts. She missed the fight, weight cutting issues with Valentina. I think it was on the Dallas card, the Woodley and Till card, if I'm correct. So she missed weight, and she got stripped of the title. And she's had problems with weight again. So we're gonna see Joanna versus Valentina, which they've fought before in Muay Thai, but it should be very interesting.
I want to see Valentina win.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think she deserves to be one of the faces of women MMA. Joanna was already on top, but I want to see Valentina because she had some bad.
I think it's an interesting fight, though. I mean, they fought in Muay Thai, and I believe Valentina beat her a couple times. Yeah, 2 times exactly. So I think it's an interesting fight. It's I don't know if it's a pick'em fight. I think Valentina would probably be the favorite. Coming down in weight, she's going to be bigger, obviously.
Striking's going to be top notch.
I think it's on the feet as well, but I also think Valentina on the ground is much more skilled. I think her wrestling, her judo, I think is probably going to be the difference in the fight because she's going to be able to dictate where the fight goes. I think if she mixes in takedowns and strikes, she can kind of catch Joanna off balance, but I think it's a good fight.
Joanna's trying to be the first, I think she's trying to be the first woman to hold 2 titles.
Yeah, and 2 separate divisions. Yeah, she would.
Now
be
you
the
see
first
that
one
more
to
in
do
the
that.
UFC. They're pushing the fighters to go to different divisions, trying to win more championships. Makes it more interesting too, though.
Yeah, I mean, when you open up a new division as well, you're going to need some. Nico Montana wasn't necessarily a household name. I mean, we forgot her name, right? We blanked on her name, but I know.
No offense.
Pretty hardcore fans, but that pretty. Yeah. We didn't really know.
Yeah, there's a lot of fighters. There's a lot of different fights.
Fighters,
Besides the point, but I think this sort of UFC sort of is going to push that fight because they sort of need the names. Joanna has a big name, has a big following. Valentina's obviously fought for a title before. She has a big name, big following. So I mean, it's a good fight. I mean, it serves as a good co-main event. Interesting fight, not necessarily for the hardcore, for the mainstream of casual fan, but for the hardcores, it's going to be an interesting fight to watch.
And also, like Yusuf said, we're really pushing hard on this this accolade of being a champion in multiple divisions too. And I want to ask you guys a question about that fight. Like we just said, Valentina has the upper hand in both those Muay Thai fights. All three of us know that Joanna is a fan of the mental warfare game going up against her opponents. We haven't really been seeing much of that in the marketing up to this point of her trying to make a fuss about Valentina or whatnot. We've just seen her training on Instagram, and pretty much the same thing goes for Shevchenko. Do you think that same mental warfare will be in Joanna's corner? Will she have the edge in Valentina, or do you think Valentina will just be able to will have the opposite effect and have the edge going into this fight? Because I think Valentina came out in an interview the other day and she said that those two wins, like Joanna's perfectionist, and like those two wins is something that she thinks a lot about deeply. So she's not going to be able to like run her mouth like she did with Rose or with anyone else. So yeah, like I said, do you guys think that Joanna will be able to use the same mental games with Shevchenko?
I think they both have like a mutual respect for each other. I don't think that's gonna probably play into because if you remember when we were in Vegas a few years ago, Amanda Nunes pulled out late against Shevchenko. That was supposed to serve as the co-main event on the International Fight Week card, which we were in Vegas for. And last minute, Joanna was there, which we ended up meeting. She's very cool. It was very cool to meet Joanna, and she ended up trying to get the fight with Valentina going. But the only problem was that every woman has to take a pregnancy test before going into the octagon.
True.
So the results wouldn't come in fast enough. So she was hitting pads in the morning. I remember we were like, is she going to even show up for the meet and greet?
Hey, Dana.
So I think they both have a mutual respect. Valentina's obviously upset. I mean, Amanda Nunes pulled out last minute on her. Nico Montana pulled out last minute on her. So that's two fights in about a year and a half span that fighters have pulled out. She's obviously said in the press, and I've heard her say that she's looking forward to an actual professional opponent. So I don't think trash talk or mental warfare is going to come into play. I think it's just two fighters who have fought before who respect each other.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's going to be too much trash talking between them two. I just think they're two very high caliber fighters. I think Joanna and Rose is different. It's two different like personalities. That's why Joanna probably thought I can take the advantage through. She probably thought that she can take the mental game through that with Rose because she's very quiet. She's not really much of a talker. But I think this one's different. I think this one's just two really high-class strikers. They're just going to go out there and go to war.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be not too much talking. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think at 115 too, Joanna was the champion. She was the boogie woman, as she liked to call herself.
Boogie woman.
So I think she could play that mental warfare game there. But like I said, against Shevchenko, she's already lost 2 times to her in Muay Thai. I think they're both going to be professional, respect each other. And I think that sort of leads into like the main event, the same thing. We're not seeing a lot of trash talk. We're just seeing a lot of competitive nature between the guys. They both want to win. They both think they can win. They both want to be the best.
Arguably the greatest.
And I think that's another great competitive fight. I don't know about what you guys think. I think that's a pick'em fight as well.
Yeah,
I think that's more of a pick'em fight than the co-main event. I feel like the co-main event, Shevchenko should be a little bit of a favorite. But I think with Ortega and Holloway, it's going to be, I mean, Ortega, every challenge he's faced, like when we look at Frankie Edgar, I was like, I think Frankie Edgar can win this fight.
First guy.
Cub Swanson, same thing. You know what I mean? So
Cub Swanson, his finish against Cub Swanson, I watched the replay of the fight like a couple weeks ago. Man, that was crazy what he did. The standing guillotine. That's like high caliber.
Yeah.
High caliber skill.
It's that Gracie tutelage that he's under, man. But going back to Holloway, I mean, like ever since the Conor loss, I think there's something that just lit up inside Max, and he's been looking impressive ever since. I mean, with the two Aldo fights that he had?
Yeah.
And like you could say what you want about the decline of Aldo, but at the same time, Holloway looks massively impressive. And if I were to pick someone going into this fight, I think I'm gonna go with Holloway. But at the same time, like Marcus said, it's pick 'em. Like I can honestly see Ortega, like what Yusuf just said as well. Like with the Frankie Edgar thing, that was a complete shock to me. Did not expect that to happen in a million years, but it happened. So it's gonna be a great fight.
Yeah, I feel like the featherweight division is sort of it's in a good place since Conor McGregor left the division. I mean, Aldo got a win against Jeremy Stephens, so he's I'm sure he
I
still
think he
wants
wants
to
the
fight.
rematch with Connor. That's what he's.
He's probably he
for.
might push that, but I mean, he could still. I mean, especially if Ortega becomes the champion, I don't think if Holloway becomes the champion, he's gonna get that third fight. I mean, he got pretty much mauled in both fights, stopped. So I mean, and it was similar fashions. So I don't think he's gonna get that third title shot.
I think Ortega, if he wins, for some reason, I can see him moving up to lightweight.
Both guys, I can sort of see that way.
Max Holloway. I want Max Holloway also to get his revenge on Connor too. I want to see that. So Connor he has a bunch of matchups that he can go through. But I want to see Max Holloway against Connor. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good fight. I mean, the featherweight division is sort of like you have Brian Ortega. There's a couple other guys in the division like Jose Aldo that are there.
Right.
Jimmy Rivera kind of. I believe Jimmy Rivera is 135. So,
yeah, he's 135.
He's 135.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a couple guys at 145 there. I'm sure Cub Swanson wants to get back in there. Yair got that win too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a couple different fights that you can sort of propose that guys step up, because now Yair's kind of broken into the mainstream like we talked about. So I mean, a couple more wins for him.
Knockout of the year.
But I mean, sort of at featherweight, it's sort of just Brian Ortega and Max Holloway. They've kind of cleared out the division. Frank Yagrak sort of got that loss. I mean, if he jumps back on the horse and gets another one or two wins, he could probably jump in there too, right?
Sure. Oh yeah, for sure. There are a ton of matchups that I think will take care of themselves in the long run. We just have to wait and see how it actually plays out. But I want to jump to welterweight for a second too, because we also have the Ultimate Fighter finale coming up on November 30th with Usman
this Friday.
and this Friday. And Usman and Rafael. So what do we think about that? It's going to be a great matchup, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be a great matchup. I think it's Rafael Dos Anjos. I think isn't he coming
Impressive.
off?
Yeah, 3.
Coming off against that win against.
Well, he lost.
Or
I mean, he lost to Covington just now, but
yeah.
But he is coming off 3 wins, I think, against Lawler, Safradine, I think, and there was somebody else. There's somebody else, but at welterweight, he was it Pettis? Magny, Neil Magny. So Rafael is looking really, really impressive. Like Cerrone as well. Those two guys moved up to welterweight and looked massively impressive. So I expect nothing short of like good things from Rafael. Usman is say what you want about Usman. I think he's still one of the beasts of the division too. So like I said, it's going to be one of those classic stylistic matchups.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to be a good fight for the welterweight division. I feel like the fighter that wins this fight again is sort of needs another win or two. Kamaru Usman, I think you can argue, sort of deserves a title shot. He's on a good unbeaten run. He's beaten some good fighters. Damian Maia was his last fight, and he did a pretty good job against Damian Maia, sort of neutralizes jiu-jitsu. So I feel like Dos Anjos, I mean, he just had that interim title shot.
Yeah.
So if he wins, I kind of, maybe you can sort of throw Woodley at him. I mean, he lost to Covington, so then he's kind of right there. He beat Usman, who was on an unbeaten run. But it's a good fight, again, for the hardcore fan. It's a good fight stylistically. I think it'll be an entertaining fight.
Mm-hmm.
It should be a good fight. I just think Kamaru Usman, his wrestling, his striking has come a long way, but just his wrestling and his mauling style.
Yeah.
If Dos Anjos doesn't sort of improve on the skills and improve on the sort of mistakes that he made against Colby Covington with that mauling, aggressive style, I feel like Kamaru Usman's going to have the upper hand. I feel Dos Anjos has to use his long reach, because he does have a pretty good reach.
Yep.
Has to use his effective strikes, his kicks, and sort of has to dictate the pace. He can't let Kamaru Usman dictate the pace, because if Kamaru Usman comes forward, puts you up against the cage, and gets you to the ground, I mean, it's not the most entertaining style, but he's going to win that fight, guaranteed. So, I mean, there's a lot of good fights going on right now coming up, right?
If Dos Anjos wants another shot, this is probably his best chance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
if he beats
Kamaru Usman,
he beats Kamaru Usman, but if he loses, I mean, that's going to be tough to come back.
Especially with 170 being as stacked as it is right now too. So, but it would be nice to see Rafael get his due. I mean, he's a great fighter. I like to see him get his due at 170. He's put in the work, I think. But like you said, it's his one shot. So we'll just have to see where it goes. Can we backtrack to Beijing for a second?
Because of course.
There was a lot of things. I think it was 3 comeback stories that were really the talk of the town of that night. You had Luis Smolka return to the UFC. You had Overeem getting his win, and you also had Ngannou getting his win too. Which one do you guys think we should start?
I feel like the Ngannou one is interesting because it's like everyone is saying that he's back, and he kind of is back. I mean, he lost to Stipe, which kind of showed his cardio and his wrestling deficiencies, and then he had that super boring fight with Derek Lewis. Like,
Apparently,
even hardcores are going, come on, like it was a brutal fight.
Mhm.
So
apparently it was something like he had some kind of injury during that fight, but I don't believe it.
I don't know, right? I don't know what
And
came
then-
out from that, but
Yeah, but he had to come back from that. That fight was like I've never seen a more
yeah, it was a good win for
boring.
him.
And that was like the thing is Derek Lewis
Mhm.
versus Ngannou. Like when I heard about that
Mhm.
fight, it was like, oh my god, this is gonna be
Yeah.
Yeah,
this is gonna be like a war.
Mhm.
And then after you see what they did,
Yeah.
I was like, whoa! I was like, this is not what nobody expected. The most boring fight that you can ever watch between two of the biggest heavyweights in the game with heavy hands.
Yeah. Mhm.
I was like, this fight's not gonna go more than one round. But
Yeah.
you saw it was like it put
Yeah.
everybody to slump. Everybody went slump after that fight.
I feel like there's a couple
We
different.
got knocked out after that.
Yeah, so he needed that win against what's his name, Blaydes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's a couple different like directions they could take Francis Ngannou. I mean, I don't think they
I
should
think he
just
wants
give
that
him a
rematch
title
with
shot.
Miocic.
Oh,
He
yeah.
maybe
Mhm.
throws like I mean Stipe though is just looking for a title
Yeah.
shot or bust.
Yeah.
And I kind of don't blame him, like we talked about before. He kind of got
Gotta-
screwed out of that
Gotta grant his,
MSG.
yeah, gotta grant his rematch.
So, I mean, I don't think Stipe's in the cards from rematch wise. I mean, what's going on with Kane? Never mind too. Like you
Yeah,
got
Sweet
Kane
Kane
out
coming
there,
back.
who was
I
my
don't
all-time
know.
favorite heavyweight fighter. And
I
I think
don't know.
if he gets that belt back and he goes on a crazy run, about a 5-6 fight win unbeaten streak, or even just retires with just those 2 losses on his record, I feel like he could go down as the greatest heavyweight of all
He
time.
is,
I mean,
my
Fedor
opinion.
said that about him as well. He thought that Kane, I mean, a guy who's 240, 250, has the cardio of like a welterweight or a
Ungodly
lightweight.
amounts
If
of
they don't-
cardio.
If they don't give what's his name?
Stipe,
Yeah, Stipe to holy, why am I blanking out?
DC.
DC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they don't give DC to Stipe, I want to see Stipe versus Kane.
And that I heard through some sort of like rumor mill. I don't know if it was confirmed by like ESPN or any of the big names, but I did see some sort of on my stream that maybe that's the fight that UFC might be interested in making.
Has
maybe
Kane been training?
Kane has been training. Kane has been
at
working
AKA?
out. I've heard
Okay.
that he's been training. He's reared up. He's ready to go. He's just looking for the right fight, I guess.
Okay.
I feel like that's the fight to make in the heavyweight division. Is
That
you have
would be-
Kane
Mhm.
against Stipe, or you have, like we talked about before, not to get
Yeah.
back into it, but you
Yeah.
have John Jones moving up to heavyweight.
Mhm.
Win or lose, I think, actually, now that I think about it. I mean, we talked about it before, but
Mhm.
I mean, even if he loses to Gustafsson, he can move up, and
Oh yeah, it's John Jones.
it's
for
John
sure.
Jones.
Like,
He can move up.
he's
And,
one of your last remaining still, like, despite everything that happened, he still draws regardless. Like,
Yeah.
he's gonna draw when it comes to the Gustafsson
Because I
rematch
don't-
again. And but I just want to say something about the heavyweight division. I mean, like, in terms of like a meritocracy, in terms of rankings, like Blaydes, like I think they were pumping up Blaydes to be an actual contender. And Ngannou just comes back and throws that out the door right now.
yes and no. I mean, it's a win-win for it. I mean, that's the job of the matchmaker, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of you're going to make a fight where if one guy comes out on top, it's not going to send him back 5 steps, right?
Yeah.
It's going to send him forward. So I mean, it's a great job by McMahon
So,
and
Are we
UFC
happy?
matchmakers.
Are we happy with potential Reem and Derek Lewis then? Because I think that's
I don't want to see that fight again. I
No?
don't think a lot of people
No?
want to see that fight again. I'd rather see Derek Lewis fight Overeem, which I mean Overeem called him out on
Mhm.
Ariel Hawani's MMA
hot
show.
balls,
called him
hot balls.
He
Let's
wants
go
to take-
hot balls.
I think that'd be a great
Yeah,
fight. I
for
mean,
sure.
Overeem has been knocked. I feel like that's gonna end in a knockout for Overeem,
Yeah.
but I feel like that's a great fight because
If
Overeem's sort
Black
of taken
beat-
over
yeah,
20 knockouts in
yeah.
his career, right?
If Black Beast does catch him with that hand, I can only imagine that man's chin will just be shattered beyond belief. Like it's already been shattered from Ngannou. I can only imagine what's going to happen to Overeem if Derek Lewis's right hand catches him. But yeah, in terms of Stipe coming back, for sure, I'd love to see him chase that rematch and get that rematch because we talk about Kane being the greatest heavyweight of all time, but Stipe is chasing him too. I mean, like for a heavyweight, like ever since he knocked out was it Verdun back in 2016, I think. like Stipe, I've been so impressed with what Stipe's done, and like I really want to see what he's capable of. In a rematch with DC, and yeah, against anyone else really who's a contender at heavyweight. So we'll see.
Yeah, man. Now I want to talk about the potential fight that was rumored on Twitter. I saw
Ooh.
Anderson's not rumored actually.
It's been
happened.
confirmed.
Confirmed.
Anderson Silva versus Style Bender, and apparently, if the Spider wins, he gets a title shot, which that just screams that UFC is begging for pay-per-view buys.
Yeah, of course.
So,
I mean, yeah, because the middleweight division is sort of, again, Robert Whittaker's not bringing in.
middleweight's like it's I don't know. I think they're pushing a 40-year-old like legend to become the face of a division again, which
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it'd be great if Anderson does beat Stylebender, though. I mean, one more win, and I would give him a title shot. I think that's legit because Stylebender is no joke, and everyone's saying this is the next John Jones, even though I don't think fighters should be compared to one another, kind of like in that.
John Jones
Like in that sense. But I do think his style and his sort of physique and everything, and the new sort of style that he brings, he is the next, sort of quote like John Jones, but he's the next superstar. So I feel like it's great. Again, it's a great job by the UFC matchmakers. I like the fight. I mean, because then you have, again, Stylebender beating the mainstream, the casual fans, GOAT, the ones that people went out to see. Anderson Silva. I mean, if you see Stylebender absolutely destroy him or even win pretty easily, even if it's a close fight, if he wins, there you go. You have another superstar on your hands because those eyeballs are going to be on him. Right, so it's a great job by the UFC marketing and matchmaking team.
Draws in the casual fans too. Hopefully,
same thing for Anderson Silva. He gets that win. I mean, he's right there.
Mm-hmm.
Now the UFC apparently promised him a title shot, which I kind of disagree with. But if he gets the win, he's right there in the mix. So it's sort of a win-win. Stylebender. I mean, it's not that big of a deal if he does lose to Anderson.
Yeah.
It's
still
MMA.
Young.
There's still losses. Still young.
Still young.
He can chalk it up as a learning experience. Get
course.
back on the horse.
Mm-hmm.
And go for that title again. But
in regards to Silva, though, I mean, at 43 years old, like we've been talking about, like for the duration of this convo, like where the UFC is lacking on star power. Do you think it's wise that they want to push Silva back into the limelight? I mean, like we just like at 43 years old, you shouldn't be like. For me personally, I don't think you should be fighting past 40. Like we've seen it with Hendo, we've seen it. Even recently, oh my goodness, with that travesty that was Iceman and Ortiz 3.
Oh, we can get into that.
Let's get into that because, my goodness, from the moment Iceman was walking out, walking funny, I was like, is this man's hip shot? Because he did not look good at all. Even walking out to fight, and like at 49 years of age. You can pass all the physicals that you want, but mentally, I know a fighter always wants to say that he can push for one more. But when that happened, when Ortiz did that, that was sad, really, to look at. What do you guys think? Because that image that's been going viral of Iceman sitting on his stool after the fight, just looking down, his hands in on his lap, just looking down and just like saddened with what just happened. I don't want to see that ever again, to be honest. Dana White says he doesn't want to see that ever again. I personally think the marketing behind that for De La Hoya, like De La Hoya shouldn't, like he retired 10 years ago himself. He knew that he was out of the fight game. To be honest, he should not have been promoting this as like, it's the return of this legend coming back to fight. You know the guy's 49 years old. You should be looking out for him in his mental state. Look what Dana White did with him as well. Like he gave him a 6-figure job working behind the scenes, and like he did his best to encourage him to stay out of the fighter spotlight. And then this happens. I mean, what do you guys think? It's just really sad from what I've seen.
In terms of Anderson Silva, I think it's okay because I heard a great point that Ariel. I'm gonna sort of steal off of his point, so I don't want to plagiarize and steal off his, but I am gonna steal off his point. He made a great point, and I agree with it, is that Anderson Silva has only been stopped 2 times in however long, the last 15 years. Or 10 years, whatever it is, how long he has been on that unbeaten run. And one of them was by him breaking his own leg, right?
Yeah.
The other one, okay, was by knockout. Yeah, and he's been in some pretty grueling fights, but he hasn't been knocked out in the same sense that Chuck Liddell was knocked out. And I remember vividly because that was sort of the period that, like, it was sort of right after I became sort of right embellished on hardcore, right nose first, head deep into the sport. So I remember, like, picture perfect the end of Chuck Liddell, because Chuck Liddell was one of the mainstream guys that I kept seeing pop up.
Yeah.
That was the UFC's sort of guy that was trying to break them into the mainstream.
First, like, UFC mainstream stuff.
And Tito Ortiz as well, which he was involved in that fight with Chuck. So I don't think Anderson Silva, I don't think it's a bad thing what the UFC is doing. I think it's, I can see what they're doing. Do I necessarily agree with it? Yeah, I do and I don't, obviously, because I don't think Anderson should get a shot if he wins. But at the same time, if Anderson loses by knockout, I don't know if I would say for him to retire. Maybe one more, I guess, when we another kick at the can. It's like he hasn't been knocked. He hasn't been, and he's been inactive a lot, right? He had the suspension after the Nick Diaz fight. He has this suspension that he's just coming off of. So, I mean, he's been inactive and he hasn't been knocked out as much. Whereas Chuck Liddell, when I first started watching the sport, it was Rampage that ended his title reign. He had a close fight, a tough dog fight with Keith Jardine, the Mean Jardine.
Keith Mean Jardine.
Crazy.
And then he had the fight with Vanderlei, another decision. And then he had the fight with Rashad, vicious knocked out.
Out.
And then he had the fight with Shogun, another vicious knockout at UFC 97.
Who's his last win?
Anderson Silva. His last win was against Vanderlei, I believe. I'm going to say his last one was against Vanderlei.
When I was in grade 9?
Yeah, no, that had to be in 2007.
24.
2008. But, I mean, like I said, he got viciously knocked out by Shogun on UFC 97 with Silva on the card. Go figure, that was in Montreal. And then he fought Rich Franklin. Rich Franklin actually broke his arm. I remember watching that fight. And Rich Franklin broke his arm in the first round and then hit him with I think it was a right. I remember him just absolutely cracking Liddell towards the end of the first round when Liddell was charging in. And that was it. And Dana White had to beg Chuck Liddell to retire. He still wanted to go some more.
Yeah.
So
I feel like once you throw money at, doesn't matter. I don't know. I look at these guys like Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz. Once you throw the money at them, they'll do whatever they can to be. Doesn't matter if you think they're ready or not. They'll do whatever to be in that octagon. And if they look like trash, then they look like trash. They don't care. I think Chuck Liddell was trying to sell it. Like he was like, I think I've always loved to fight and everything like that. But then you see him in the octagon. This guy's like, he was a noodle out there.
Yeah.
He wasn't doing nothing. You saw him throwing punches. It was like, bro, my grandma can throw.
See, I mean, we didn't cover it leading up to the fight. We sort of talked about it.
Yeah.
Like, outside of. But if you asked me a few weeks ago, and you asked me a few weeks ago, what would you think about this fight?
Yeah.
I would tell you what happened was going to happen, and it did.
I think the majority of us think
I think 90% of MMA fans knew what was going to happen.
In their gut, that was
maybe some didn't say it explicitly, but I knew he was going to get knocked out. I saw the end of that's one of the most vivid memories of me starting MMA.
Just want to bounce off what Yusuf said too. Like in terms of how they let this fight happen, like the California Athletic State Commission, are they the most restrictive in the country? I think in terms
they're
of
the most respect. Yeah, they're sort of respected and revered in that sense.
Right.
Like
so.
But I mean,
shouldn't your physicians and doctors know beforehand the mental state of this person?
But with Chuck Liddell, he's not slurring his words. He's like, his physical shape, it didn't look the best, his technique and everything like that, but they're sort of looking at your health, right?
He looked decent.
So that's why. But I mean, eventually, and Brendan Schaub has said it before, and it's been proven, and it's such a great point, is when your brain takes so many knockouts, as soon as it gets that first hard shot, it's not the chin that's affected, it's your brain saying, okay, this is enough, I've had enough, and it's going to shut off way quicker. And with Tito Ortiz, he's still, I believe, in way better shape than Chuck was.
Oh, for sure.
He's 5 years younger than
100%.
him. He had that fight with Chael. He didn't look great, and he even didn't look great in this fight.
But I knew when he got rid of Chael, compared to Chuck,
his hands are much better.
Oh, yeah.
Like, who would have known that? You wouldn't have said that 15, 20 years ago. Obviously not. But his hands are still better than Chuck's.
Yeah.
He's still a big guy. He's still gonna have power. So I knew what was going to happen.
Yep.
Everybody did.
Everybody
it's not like
did,
I'm a genius. I'm some sort of
So
Nostradamus, right?
So I guess that goes back to showing like, do we want to see fight nights headlined by the stars of yesteryear? Do we want to see another Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz for the sake of a paycheck, or where do we draw a line in the sand and say, look, this is not good for them. They know it. De La Hoya, I know you want to make a paycheck off this, but you shouldn't be doing this.
I think we won't see it as much in the UFC.
Like I said, sure not in the UFC.
Dana begged Chuck to stop.
Yeah.
10 years ago, he begged him.
I never find myself agreeing with Dana White, but I do agree with him when he blasted De La Hoya. But to be the contrarian that I am for a second, and it's like apples and oranges almost.
It's like a business. It's like
that
you gotta judge your morals, you gotta judge your character.
But also, Dana White did put CM Punk into 2 sanctioned fights in the UFC. So I can't really I see both sides. We all see both sides.
That's actually a really good point.
So there you go. It's like you have no business going into the octagon whatsoever. Go to an amateur circuit or something first if you want to pick up wins. But Dana White still put him into the UFC 2 times, and he had no business doing there. He has no MMA experience. I mean, he has a drawing capacity for that name alone, yes. But where do we draw the line in the sand and say, look, stop, it's a business, I get it, but where do we draw that line in the sand and say, look, we got to look after these guys' health and wellness first?
Yeah, I think with Anderson, like we were talking about before, like I said, I kind of disagree. Like Anderson hasn't been knocked out since the Chris Weidman fight. The second fight, like I said, he got stopped. I'm gonna repeat it again. It was a kick.
Yeah.
Chris Weidman checked it. Broke his leg. One of the nastiest things we've ever seen in the octagon. But he wasn't knocked out.
Yeah.
And then he fought Nick Diaz. Then he was inactive because he was suspended. Bisping, Brunson. I mean, he wasn't knocked out. So, I mean, with Anderson Silva, I think he's still fairly fresh. Now, if he does get knocked out by Adesanya, then okay, maybe you got to look at retirement, maybe one more fight. If it's another knockout, okay, 2 back-to-back knockouts in a row. What kind of road do we want to go down, right? But with Chuck Liddell, I mean, like I said, the end of his career was so vivid in my mind, and still, like I said, I can recall each and every fight because that was when I became the hardcore nosedive deep fan that I am today. And it was sad to watch. And it was sad to watch again on Saturday, the highlights, because I didn't obviously pay $40 for that fight. And I didn't see any interest in streaming the fight.
The fight was free the day after on YouTube, bro.
So there you go. So, I mean, it was just, everyone even said it was sad to watch.
I think he took his chance because he's like, I'm facing Tito Ortiz, who's also old and washed up like me, but Tito Ortiz was actually more.
He's a different level of Tito Ortiz is like he could still fight, but
it's like
it has to be certain opponents. Chuck Liddell against anybody, I think that has some sort of decent MMA training would be stopped.
Even when he was like he put like the videos online of him sparring.
Oh my God, I've seen a couple of those.
He's and he was like, what's it called? He was boxing with somebody in training, and apparently like he lost. Some younger guy, and he looked slow. Yeah. And he lost apparently, and I think that was pretty hard to watch too. I'm like,
that was terrible.
If that's what you're doing in training, then what's gonna happen in real fight?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, we always when we go and watch fights, especially with our friends, we always joke around about, all right, this is going to be the first scene of the CTE ESPN 30 for 30 doc. This will be the first clip shown. And I mean, Chuck Liddell might be but like I said, Chuck Liddell still sort of, he's not slurring his words. Oh. He still can walk properly. He still can live his everyday life. But I mean, there just comes a point in time where eventually, if he were to keep fighting, which I don't think he will, I think I think his family's going to convince him. Dana's going to talk to him. His trainer, John Henkelman, is going to talk to him. It's done. So, I mean, hopefully that is the end of Chuck Liddell's career. I mean, a great guy to get me into the sport, but I think that's it.
Man.
Hang up
the gloves.
Hang it up. Nothing. You're a legend. You're a legend already. I mean, like, I get the fighter's mindset of wanting to continue because you always think there's going to be that one more spotlight put on you after a potential win. But there comes a certain time in life. Muhammad Ali did it after, who was his last opponent? Burbeck, I think, or after the Larry Holmes fight.
Oh, did he fight one more time after
Larry Holmes? There was one more
Holmes?
random name that I think that, even in the, okay, we'll go to the Larry Holmes example for a conversation's sake. But, like, like you could even see that. I think he went the distance. Did he go the distance with?
No, his
It was
trainer
10
threw in the
rounds.
towel. I think
Yeah.
at the end of the 13th or the 14th round said that was enough.
Even the greatest
That
of all
was enough.
time.
And he was already showing signs of Parkinson's while
yeah.
training with that fight. So I mean
So-
that's a perfect example. And I
Yeah.
think Ariel again brought up that point.
Mhm.
Like
Oh, did
he's
he?
such an MMA genius.
Mhm.
That we've seen examples of that in boxing
Yes.
over and over and over again.
Mhm.
You can write books and books about it.
Mhm.
Muhammad Ali is the perfect example.
Oh, yeah.
But in MMA, we don't have that
We don't
yet.
have
And I
that
think
yet.
Czech Liddell is going to be that guy.
Yeah.
That great champion, the guy
Mhm.
who sort of helped the UFC
A
push,
pioneer.
start
of
the push
sport.
for the mainstream. I mean,
In
he was in
essence.
music videos.
Mhm.
He was everywhere. Chuck
Good Life,
Liddell.
Good Morning America,
So-
everything.
That is the perfect example.
Yeah.
And now, speaking of
Yeah.
boxing,
Yeah.
the heavyweight
Speaking of the
division,
sweet science.
we have a huge fight coming up. Maybe not sort of the casuals again. Maybe it's not the fight that breaks into the
It's getting up
casuals,
there.
but I think
Yeah.
it should.
Mhm.
We have Tyson Fury, the Gypsy King from England, against Deontay, the Bronze Bomber
Bronze.
Wilder.
Speak it, believe it, receive it. Speak it, believe it, receive it.
It is for the WBC Heavyweight Championship of the world. Sort of, it's going to prove who the maybe second best heavyweight is. Maybe you can make the argument the best heavyweight is
We
because
can
it's
Basically,
We
winner
the
can
facing
best
Joshua.
fighting the
Yep.
best.
Mhm.
The winner to face Anthony Joshua, which if you
Either
don't
way.
know,
It's a win-win for Anthony Joshua if it's
we
Fury.
were talking about this last night.
If it's
Mhm.
Fury,
Mhm.
I think it's
the
a
biggest
win-win.
Yeah.
I don't think it's I mean, if Deontay Wilder loses,
Mhm.
the aura of the Joshua Wilder fight, which these are the two biggest rivals in boxing right now in the heavyweight division, since
Undefeated.
Canelo and Triple G sort of didn't end their rivalry, but sort of have fought already twice. This is the next fight to break into the mainstream. But I don't think if Tyson Fury wins, it hurts that because then you have
Mhm.
Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua, which if people don't know, Anthony Joshua sells out soccer, football, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
stadiums.
Mhm.
Wembley Stadium in London sold out for Klitschko, which was the
And if
fight
it's
of the
Fury-
year, the
Mhm.
fight that introduced me to Anthony Joshua
Me
because
too.
I'm not
I think all of
a
us
super
were,
hardcore
yeah.
boxing
Mhm.
fan, but I am definitely nose deep in the
Sweet
sport
science
as well.
enthusiast now.
Introduced me to Anthony Joshua, and that was 2017's fight of the year
Against Klitschko, right?
against
I watched
Klitschko.
that.
What a fight! I told
Holy
you,
shit.
Yeah, I
watch
watched
that
it.
fight. That is probably one of the greatest heavyweight fights of all time.
Oh yeah.
Definitely of our generation.
Mhm.
What do you guys think is going to happen in the fight?
I think Deontay Wilder's gonna come out swinging like it's how he usually does. He's gonna go out crazy, I think. But I want to see Fury to win because of his whole story that's going on. I want to see him to win because of his story with his fight with depression and everything. I think he's just gonna come and he's gonna give Deontay his biggest challenge. I think he's gonna pull through eventually with his power. I think he can probably go 12 rounds. I don't know about Deontay Wilder if he can go 12 rounds. But
He's
Fury-
gone 12 rounds, I think.
Has he?
He's gone one time with Stavern,
Stavern.
but then he knocked him out in the
The
second
second.
fight. Stavern was sleeping on the bottom of the ropes. What about you, Damien? What do you think about the fight? Where do you sort of see the fight going?
So, like a bunch of us, like I wasn't necessarily enthusiastic about this happening to begin with, but I started watching the build up a little bit more. And what sold me on this fight was watching Gypsy King come on Joe Rogan's podcast. I watched that full episode and I was glued to every single word he
Yeah,
said.
it was a great podcast.
There was promotion on his part, sure, but we all know that mental health and mental awareness,
Yeah.
mental health awareness is a huge thing in sports now. So, and rightfully so. And just hearing Fury's story about just dabbling with cocaine, not wanting to live anymore, you can have him having all the materialistic things in the world that anyone could possibly want, but still being unhappy with their lives, and hearing him having him snapped out of it by having Deontay Wilder say, "I can beat you," and then Tyson Fury just went. He's like, "You know what? Time to get out of this. I need to go beat this guy." So from that point forward, I watched it sit down on BT Sports. I watched every other build-up on ESPN, First Take, and I personally think the result of this is basically what he said on the Joe Rogan podcast. Either Bronze Bomber is going to knock him out early on, or Tyson Fury is just going to pop and weave his way to a decision
box
on
him,
points.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
So those are the only two ways. What do I personally think is going to happen? I'd like to see Tyson Fury come back and have that emotional impact by him winning. He is the lineal champion, like he likes to say in all his promotions
Yep.
and whatnot.
He was the man who beat the man.
The man who beat the man for sure. And like you said, it's win-win. Like we all said, I think it just goes back to like whoever wins, they get Joshua in the end. So like we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think. See, for me, I'm really excited for this fight. I mean, it creeped up. I was just like, oh man, it's December 1st already. I personally think Deontay Wilder. I can see, like, for me, I don't
He's
know.
gonna try to finish it
I-
early.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's gonna try to finish it early.
I can't say for a definitive fact Deontay Wilder will win this fight.
Yeah.
Because Tyson Fury, it's not his first fight back since his
And a tune-up.
his hiatus. He had, I think, one or two tune-ups. He had two tune-ups that he both won. I can see Deontay Wilder winning by knockout early or late, like Brendan Shaw said. I can see that happening. I mean, against Luis Ortiz, King Kong,
Mhm.
he came back from being down on the canvas, down on the scorecards, I believe,
Yeah.
and won that fight late. I think Deontay Wilder sort of found something in himself there that might propel him to those heights against Tyson Fury. With Tyson Fury, I don't see an early knockout happening,
Mhm.
but what I do see is outbox, outclass.
Yep.
He's gonna last longer.
I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
we've never seen a heavyweight like this. You know, I'm not saying Tyson Fury is Muhammad Ali, but we've never seen a style like this
Not
in the
since that
heavyweight
era.
division since Muhammad
Yeah.
Ali. A
You
guy
look at his
that
physique
big,
now.
his physique,
Oh, my
he
goodness.
moves, the way his footwork is, his
Mhm.
movements, his angles,
Yeah.
his speed,
Yeah.
his jab.
Everything.
I mean, he poses a lot of challenges to Deontay Wilder.
Mhm.
So I think it's a great fight for boxing.
It's gonna be a good showcase of power and speed.
I
in
think
the
if a
heavyweight
casual
division.
fan
Mhm.
wants to get into boxing, I think now is the time to do it.
Oh yeah.
The best are starting to fight the best, even though we don't have Joshua versus Wilder, which is, I believe, is the fight to make.
This is Wilder's biggest challenge.
Like I said, it's either going to be Wilder early or late, in the middle, whichever one you want to say.
Yeah.
I think if it goes to the judges,
Mhm.
Fury wins the fight.
We're
I
giving
can't
it
see
to Fury.
Deontay
Nope.
Wilder winning.
Of course not. Not
If-
on points.
If
no.
you're going to hold a gun to my head and say, okay, give me a prediction, who's it going to be? You have to pick one.
Fury by decision.
I'm going to pick
Yeah.
Deontay Wilder by knockout
Yeah.
just because of his punching power.
Mhm.
Fury hasn't faced that caliber of opponent since Klitschko.
Nope.
It's been a long time.
Mhm.
I feel like if Deontay Wilder connects
Mhm.
clean with anybody in the heavyweight division,
They're going to sleep.
they're going to go to sleep.
They're going to go to sleep.
Maybe not Anthony Joshua. He's
Yeah.
shown that he's
Mhm.
been able to come back off the canvas. Tyson Fury, I believe, has come back from being knocked down as well.
Yeah,
But I just don't see Tyson Fury being able to,
Mhm.
if you held against my head, if you really needed me to give an opinion,
Yeah.
I just don't see Tyson Fury being able to withstand the power of Deontay Wilder. Tyson Fury needs to put on a masterful boxing performance,
Mhm.
needs to be effective early, use the jab,
Yep.
and then sort of find his rhythm. And as the fight goes on, I think it's obviously better for Fury.
Mhm.
Wilder's obviously going to be looking for the knockout, but I
Right.
feel like Wilder showed hard in that Luis Ortiz fight. That
Yeah.
really changed,
Mhm.
not necessarily changed my opinion on him, but that
Mhm.
really showed to me that he is, a true champion and a worthy, challenger to Anthony Joshua. That could give Anthony Joshua some problems.
Mhm. And I can't wait to see whoever ends up facing Joshua. But I want to backtrack for a second to Tyson Fury's status as lineal champion.
Yeah.
I was talking about this to Yusuf just now before we started. Marcus, what do you think? Do you think we romanticize the idea of like a lineal champion status a lot nowadays? Does it mean anything? Is it
Like we
irrelevant?
talked about in the first episode
Yeah,
with boxing
Mhm.
quickly, like I think I touched upon it for like a couple minutes.
yeah.
Belts don't mean anything in boxing.
No,
to me.
not at all.
I think it's just you want to see the best fight the best.
Of
Yeah,
course.
that's what
There's
I-
too many.
But in terms
There's
of,
too
like-
many organizations and belts.
So many. And where do we like if, in terms of I could see it as like a promotional tactic to big yourself up and
Yeah.
big your profile up a little bit. But I mean like for me personally, like I don't really care if you're lineal. I just want to see you shoot for the undisputed status.
I
That's-
want to see people win belts, unified divisions. Like Anthony Joshua is the unified champion, not the undisputed champion. The WBC, interesting note to touch on, the WBC, which is the organization, not the commission, the organization overseeing the fight. And it's sort of looked upon as the storied organization.
Yeah.
I mean, WBC it's the marquee belt.
Mhm.
It's not like the IBO
No,
or
right, IBO
or the IBF or the WBO.
That's the belt everybody cares
WBC,
about.
I think, is the belt everyone wants to
Yep.
crave.
Mhm.
They have ordered the winner of this fight to fight Anthony Joshua.
Yeah.
So the fight should happen unless someone wants to vacate their belts.
Mhm.
Anthony Joshua, it's a win-win for him, I think. It's smart business by his promoter, Eddie Hearn.
Mhm.
You know, he is starting not to, I'm a huge Anthony Joshua fan. I want to see him knock out Wilder. I haven't, for me personally, as a fan, if you're going to ask me as a fan, not an analyst, even though I wouldn't be considered an analyst. If you're going to ask me as a fan, I love Anthony Joshua. He's my guy. I'm a fan of his. Smart business, but he is, I wouldn't say getting annoying, but it's sort of I'm looking for. It's just sort of,
Not patient.
you know, I'm impatient. The best need to fight the best, and we
Yeah.
need to go here. And Lennox Lewis has even said that. You know, Anthony Joshua is his boy. He is British as well, Lennox Lewis. He just wants to see the best fight the best. I think that fight needs to happen. Wilder, whoever wins this fight, I think it's next for Joshua. And then after that, it's the next guy. So
Yeah.
I think if Wilder loses, Wilder will fight somebody else at the heavyweight division, maybe rematch Luis Ortiz, get another big name, whatever it is, and then fight the winner of Fury and Joshua, or fight Joshua. So there's those three, I think,
Fury
are
might
the
even
top
have
guys.
that proposed rematch with Klitschko again. That got canceled because of his drug addiction problems.
If Klitschko wants to come out
which
of
I
retirement,
wouldn't mind seeing. Yeah, I
need
know.
to see he's retired.
Which would be pretty awesome to see if he just.
But
again.
part of me wants to see Tyson Fury win because of the
Story.
the British sort of. It's going to be obviously that fight would be in England, no doubt about it.
Wembley Stadium.
It'd be at Wembley. It would sell out. You could possibly fill 90, almost 100,000 people in there to see two of the best fighters who are both British, who both have gone back and forth and talk smack with one another, which is another aspect of this fight. It's not just a fight where both guys are respecting each other. They have no respect whatsoever for each other. No professionalism. I'm sure they have mutual respect deep down, but they're not showing it in their interviews and their media, right, in the face-offs. So I think it's going to be a great win-win situation for boxing where you have three of the top names, no matter what happens in this fight, because I think Anthony Joshua does have the most to lose.
Oh, yeah.
So I do
100%.
think he has a point
100%.
in waiting, and his promoter, Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing up in England, has a point in doing their business in the manner in which they're doing. But at the same time, as a fan, we just want to see the best fight the best, which is what the UFC is going to bring next week. UFC 231, Brian Ortega, like we talked about before. After this fight, there's not really much contenders left. Looking at the rankings, which I just looked at, we only have Cub Swanson up there. We only
Who's
have
next?
Jose Aldo, Frankie Edgar. Those are the three guys that are in the top five, I believe. After that, you're sort of on the outside looking in. We have Jeremy Stevens, who lost to Aldo, on the outside looking in. Jimmy Rivera, who's at bantamweight, who lost to Marlon Moraes, took the risk. Great example of what Frankie Edgar did.
It's not really anyone else.
So maybe Jimmy Rivera moves back up to bantamweight because I know he was there before. That's why I wasn't sure. But it's going to be a great card coming up this Friday. The Tough finale, which we can get into another time. The State of Tough, something that got me into the sport, but that's something nobody, including myself, watches anymore. Nobody really watches.
I feel like Tough got very. It went down.
It went down. So
I was so into it in the beginning. That's when it was hype.
We can get into that in future episodes, what they do with Tough.
Sure. Stay tuned.
So we got the Tough finale coming up this week. We got UFC 231 coming up next Saturday, and then the week after that, we're gonna bring you episode 4. I know we haven't discussed this yet as a group, but I think episode 4 will be sort of our last episode of the year, maybe, because it's sort of the holidays, and then come back with the new year, John Jones, Gustafsson. There's going to be a lot of stories coming out, so we'll have an episode 5 in the new year, juicy, packed, and ready to go. So I think it's been a great, started off a little bit. We didn't know which direction to go into, and we sort of hit the ground running. So great episode, boys. All right, and that's a wrap.
Just remember, guys, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Give us a like, follow, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We appreciate the support.